Welcome to Official Sigma Male, where we decode the mysteries of the most misunderstood archetype in modern masculinity. If you've ever felt like you don't quite fit into traditional social categories, if you've found strength in solitude and power in independence, then you're in the right place. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most controversial aspects of Sigma behavior: why these men often appear to have no one in their lives. But before we continue, if you want to unlock more insights into the Sigma mindset and join a community of men who think differently, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, the journey we're about to take will challenge everything you think you know about relationship success and what it truly means to be a powerful man in today's world. 1. The strategic solitude. You've probably noticed it, that inexplicable magnetism of the man who stands alone in a crowded room, completely unbothered by the chaos around him. While everyone else scrambles for attention, validation, and connection, he remains centered, self-contained, and mysteriously attractive. This is the Sigma male, and if you're watching this, chances are you've recognized these traits in yourself or someone you know. But here's what most people don't understand. When Sigmas appear to have no one in their lives, it's not because they can't form connections. It's because they've mastered something most men never will. They've learned that true strength comes from strategic solitude, not desperate social climbing. The Sigma male operates on a completely different frequency than the typical social hierarchy. While alpha males fight for the top of the pyramid and beta males accept their position below, Sigmas have walked away from the pyramid entirely. They've discovered that the most powerful position isn't at the top of someone else's game. It's creating your own game entirely. This strategic solitude isn't loneliness, it's precision. Every relationship, every connection, every social interaction is carefully evaluated through the lens of authentic value exchange. Sigmas don't collect people like trophies or maintain relationships out of social obligation. They understand that quality trumps quantity in every aspect of life, especially in human connections. When a Sigma appears to have no one, what you're actually witnessing is someone who has refused to compromise their standards for the sake of appearing socially successful. They've learned that it's better to have genuine connections with a few who truly understand them than superficial relationships with many who only see the surface. The modern world pressures men to be constantly connected, always networking, perpetually seeking validation through social media metrics and relationship status updates. The Sigma male has seen through this illusion. He recognizes that much of what society calls connection is actually codependency disguised as relationship success. Consider the typical social scenario: a party where everyone is desperately trying to prove their worth through wit, status symbols, or social positioning. The Sigma observes this theater with detached amusement. He's not antisocial, he's selectively social. He engages when there's genuine value in the interaction, not because social convention demands it. This selective approach to relationships often confuses others. They mistake his discernment for aloofness, his standards for arrogance, his independence for isolation. But the Sigma understands something crucial. Authentic relationships can only be built on a foundation of authentic self-knowledge and genuine mutual respect. The strategic solitude of the Sigma creates space for deep self-reflection and personal growth. While others fill their time with meaningless social obligations, the Sigma uses his alone time to develop skills, pursue passions, and refine his understanding of what he truly wants from life. This isn't escapism, it's intentional self-development. Think about the most successful entrepreneurs, artists, and innovators throughout history. Many of them spent significant periods in solitude, not because they were antisocial, but because they understood that breakthrough thinking requires space away from the noise of conventional wisdom and social pressure. The Sigma male has internalized this principle and applies it to all areas of his life. 2. The quality over quantity mindset. Here's where most men get it completely wrong. They think having a packed contact list equals social success. They collect acquaintances like Pokemon cards, desperately trying to fill some invisible quota that society has imposed on them. But the Sigma male has cracked the code that eludes most men. One genuine connection is worth more than 100 superficial ones. The quality over quantity mindset isn't just a preference for Sigmas. It's a fundamental operating principle that guides every relationship decision they make. While other men are busy maintaining dozens of shallow friendships that drain their energy and offer little in return, the Sigma focuses his social energy like a laser beam on connections that actually matter. This approach starts with brutal honesty about what each relationship brings to the table. The Sigma asks himself tough questions. Does this person challenge me to grow? Do they respect my boundaries? Can I be authentically myself around them? Do they add genuine value to my life? Or am I just maintaining this connection out of habit or social obligation? Most men are terrified to apply these standards because they fear ending up alone. They'd rather surround themselves with people who don't truly understand them than risk the temporary discomfort of having fewer but more meaningful connections. The Sigma has overcome this fear because he's discovered something powerful. Being alone with integrity is infinitely better than being surrounded by people who don't really know you. Consider how the average man handles friendships. He maintains connections with college buddies who no longer share his values, work colleagues who drain his energy with constant negativity, and social acquaintances who only reach out when they need something. He keeps these relationships alive through group chats filled with meaningless banter, obligatory social gatherings, and the exhausting performance of being someone he's not. The Sigma cuts through this social fat without hesitation. He's not cruel about it. He simply stops investing energy where there's no authentic return. He doesn't ghost people or burn bridges. He just naturally gravitates toward those who operate on his wavelength and allows the superficial connections to fade organically. This quality-focused approach extends to romantic relationships as well. While other men will settle for partners who meet some basic criteria, attractive enough, available, interested, the Sigma maintains standards that most would consider impossibly high. He'd rather be single than compromise on fundamental compatibility, shared values, or genuine intellectual and emotional connection. The result is that Sigmas often appear to have no one because they refuse to count relationships that don't meet their standards. They don't measure their social success by how many people show up to their birthday party or how many likes they get on social media. They measure it by the depth, authenticity, and mutual growth present in their closest connections. This approach requires tremendous confidence and self-awareness. It means accepting that you might have fewer people to call on a random Tuesday night, but knowing that the people you can call will actually be there for you in meaningful ways. It's the difference between having 100 acquaintances who know your name and having 5 people who know your soul. The Sigma understands that maintaining high-quality relationships actually requires more work, not less. Surface-level friendships can be maintained with occasional texts and social media interactions. Deep, authentic relationships require vulnerability, honest communication, and the willingness to show up during difficult times. Most men avoid this level of relational investment because it's easier to keep things shallow. But here's what they're missing. Those deep connections become a source of genuine strength and fulfillment that no amount of superficial socializing can match. When a Sigma does invest in a relationship, he goes all in. He's the friend who shows up at 3 a.m. when you need help, the partner who sees through your masks and loves you anyway, the colleague who challenges you to be better rather than just agreeing with everything you say. 3. The independence paradox. Here's the mind-bending truth that most people can't wrap their heads around. The more independent a Sigma becomes, the more attractive he becomes to others. It's a paradox that defies conventional wisdom about relationships and social connection, yet it's one of the most powerful forces in the Sigma's social dynamics. Most men operate from a place of neediness that they try desperately to hide. They need validation from friends, approval from romantic partners, and recognition from colleagues. This neediness seeps into every interaction, creating an invisible desperation that repels the very people they're trying to attract. They become emotional vampires, constantly seeking to fill internal voids through external validation. The Sigma has broken free from this exhausting cycle by developing genuine independence, not just financial or physical independence, but emotional and psychological independence. He doesn't need anyone to complete him because he's already whole. He doesn't need constant reassurance because he's secure in his own worth. He doesn't need to be the center of attention because he's comfortable with who he is. This independence manifests in countless subtle ways that create magnetic attraction. When a Sigma enters a room, he's not scanning for approval or looking for someone to validate his presence. He's comfortable in his own skin, which creates an aura of confidence that others find irresistible. People are drawn to those who seem complete unto themselves because it suggests a level of self-mastery that most lack. The paradox deepens when you realize that this independence actually makes Sigmas better partners and friends, not worse ones. Because they don't need relationships to feel whole, they can engage authentically rather than desperately. They can love without clinging, support without enabling, and connect without losing themselves in the process. Think about the most attractive people you've ever met. Not just physically attractive, but magnetically compelling. Chances are they had this quality of self-sufficiency that made you want to be around them. They weren't trying to impress you or win your approval. They were simply being themselves with such authenticity that it was captivating. This independence also protects Sigmas from the manipulation and drama that plague most social circles. When someone tries to use guilt, emotional manipulation, or social pressure to control a Sigma's behavior, it simply doesn't work. He's not dependent on their approval or afraid of their rejection, so their tactics fall flat. This immunity to manipulation often frustrates people who are used to getting their way through emotional coercion. The financial aspect of independence can't be ignored either. While money isn't everything, financial self-sufficiency removes many of the power dynamics that complicate relationships. The Sigma isn't looking for someone to support him financially, nor is he seeking to control others through financial dependency. This creates space for relationships based on genuine compatibility rather than economic necessity. But perhaps the most powerful aspect of Sigma independence is the way it filters relationships naturally. People who are drawn to dependent, needy partners will be repelled by the Sigma's self-sufficiency. Meanwhile, those who appreciate strength, authenticity, and emotional maturity will be magnetically attracted. This natural filtering process ensures that the people who do enter the Sigma's life are more likely to be compatible on a deep level. The independence paradox also explains why Sigmas are often misunderstood. Society has trained us to believe that healthy people need lots of social connection, constant communication, and regular validation from others. When someone operates differently, when they're genuinely content with solitude and don't seek constant approval, it can seem abnormal or even antisocial to those who haven't experienced true independence. This misunderstanding often leads to the perception that Sigmas have no one in their lives. What observers don't realize is that the Sigma's independence allows him to be incredibly selective about who he allows into his inner circle. He's not collecting people out of fear of being alone. He's choosing connections based on genuine compatibility and mutual respect. The result is that when a Sigma does form close relationships, they tend to be extraordinarily strong and lasting. Because these connections aren't built on neediness or fear, they can weather storms that would destroy more conventional relationships. Both parties can grow and change without threatening the foundation of the relationship because it's built on appreciation rather than dependency. 4. The emotional self-sufficiency factor. This is where we dive into the psychological core of why Sigmas appear to have no one. They've achieved something that most men spend their entire lives struggling with: complete emotional self-sufficiency. They don't need external sources to regulate their emotions, validate their worth, or provide them with a sense of identity. This emotional independence is both their greatest strength and the reason why they often seem isolated to those who haven't mastered their own emotional landscape. Emotional self-sufficiency doesn't mean being emotionless or cold. It means having developed such a strong internal emotional regulation system that you don't need others to make you feel good about yourself, calm your anxieties, or boost your confidence. The Sigma has learned to be his own source of emotional stability, which is perhaps the most attractive quality a man can possess. Most men are emotional children disguised as adults. They look to their romantic partners to be their therapists, their friends to be their cheerleaders, and their social circles to provide them with a sense of identity and worth. When their girlfriend is upset with them, their entire emotional world crumbles. When their friends don't invite them to something, they spiral into self-doubt. When they don't get the recognition they feel they deserve at work, they become bitter and resentful. The Sigma has transcended this emotional dependency through rigorous self-work and brutal self-honesty. He's faced his demons, processed his traumas, and developed the internal tools necessary to navigate life's emotional challenges without constantly needing external support. This doesn't happen overnight. It's the result of years of intentional personal development, often including therapy, meditation, journaling, and other practices that build emotional intelligence and resilience. This emotional self-sufficiency shows up in countless ways that others find both attractive and intimidating. When facing criticism, the Sigma doesn't become defensive or seek reassurance from others. He evaluates the feedback objectively and either learns from it or dismisses it based on its merit. When experiencing disappointment, he doesn't need someone to comfort him. He processes the emotion, learns what he can, and moves forward. Perhaps most powerfully, the emotionally self-sufficient Sigma doesn't need constant validation in relationships. He doesn't require his partner to constantly tell him he's loved, appreciated, or attractive. He doesn't need friends to regularly affirm his worth or include him in every social activity. This absence of neediness creates space for authentic connection because interactions aren't clouded by hidden agendas or emotional desperation. This emotional independence often confuses others, especially in romantic relationships. Partners who are used to emotionally dependent men don't know how to interpret the Sigma's self-sufficiency. They might mistake his emotional stability for lack of caring, his independence for aloofness, or his self-containment for rejection. This misunderstanding can create distance in relationships with people who haven't developed their own emotional maturity. The Sigma's emotional self-sufficiency also makes him immune to many of the manipulation tactics that work on other men. Guilt trips don't work because he doesn't carry excessive guilt about his choices. Emotional blackmail fails because he's not afraid of others' emotional reactions. Silent treatment is ineffective because he's comfortable with solitude and doesn't need constant communication to feel secure. This immunity to emotional manipulation often frustrates people who are used to controlling others through emotional means. They can't push the Sigma's buttons because he's done the work to understand and heal his emotional triggers. They can't make him feel guilty about his boundaries because he's confident in his right to maintain them. They can't use their emotions as weapons because he won't take responsibility for managing other people's feelings. The development of emotional self-sufficiency requires confronting some uncomfortable truths about neediness and codependency. Most people form relationships as a way to avoid dealing with their own emotional pain, loneliness, or insecurity. They use others as emotional crutches, which creates relationships built on mutual dependency rather than mutual appreciation. The Sigma has done the difficult work of healing these core wounds, which means he approaches relationships from a place of wholeness rather than brokenness. He doesn't need someone to complete him because he's already complete. He doesn't need someone to heal his past because he's done that work himself. He doesn't need someone to make him feel worthy because he's established his own sense of self-worth. This emotional self-sufficiency creates a foundation for incredibly healthy relationships when they do occur. Because the Sigma isn't looking to others to meet his emotional needs, he can focus on genuine connection, shared growth, and mutual support. He can be present for others' emotions without being consumed by them. He can offer support without enabling dependency. The result is that Sigmas often appear to have fewer close relationships, but the relationships they do have tend to be exceptionally healthy and fulfilling. They attract other emotionally mature individuals who appreciate independence and personal growth. They repel those who are looking for someone to fix them, complete them, or manage their emotional lives. 5. The standards that others can't meet. Let's be brutally honest. Sigmas have standards that most people simply cannot meet. This isn't arrogance, it's the natural result of someone who has done deep personal development work and refuses to accept anything less than authentic excellence in relationships. The Sigma's standards operate on multiple levels. Intellectually, they seek people who can engage in meaningful conversation and challenge their thinking. They want depth and curiosity, not surface-level knowledge or popular opinions. Emotionally, they require maturity. People who communicate directly, handle conflict constructively, and take responsibility for their own emotional state. No drama, passive aggression, or manipulation. Morally, Sigmas maintain ethical standards that don't bend for convenience. They value integrity and consistency between values and actions. They're repelled by people who compromise principles for social acceptance. Behaviorally, they expect reliability, respect for boundaries, and mutual consideration. No flakiness, disrespect, or one-sided relationships. In romantic relationships, while other men pursue based on physical attraction or availability, the Sigma evaluates comprehensively. Physical attraction is just entry level. They need intellectual compatibility, emotional maturity, shared values, and genuine character. This often means remaining single for extended periods, not because they can't attract partners, but because they refuse to settle. These standards serve as a natural filtering system, protecting the Sigma's time and energy. Instead of wasting years in mediocre relationships, they focus on connections that truly matter. Fewer relationships overall, but extraordinarily fulfilling ones. Most people find these standards intimidating because they highlight their own developmental gaps. Rather than doing the work to meet these standards, many dismiss them as unrealistic. The Sigma's response is simple: better criticized for having standards than regretting compromising them. 6. The power of selective engagement. The final piece explaining why Sigmas appear to have no one is their mastery of selective engagement, choosing when, where, and with whom to invest social energy. This isn't antisocial behavior. It's recognizing that attention and energy are finite resources requiring wise investment. The average man operates on social autopilot, accepting invitations out of politeness or fear of missing out. He attends uninteresting events, maintains unstimulating conversations, and participates in misaligned activities. The result? A scattered social life that feels busy but ultimately unsatisfying. The Sigma evaluates every social opportunity against clear criteria. Does this align with my values? Will it contribute to growth? Are the people compatible with my energy? Will this require a social mask or allow authentic expression? This evaluation often leads to declining invitations others would automatically accept. Skip office happy hour for personal projects. Decline parties with incompatible crowds. Choose quiet evenings over obligatory gatherings. The power lies in how fully he engages when he does choose to participate. Not spread thin across superficial interactions, he brings complete presence to chosen connections. When he's with someone, he's truly present, not planning next obligations or checking phones. This quality of presence is magnetic. People sense full engagement versus going through motions. The Sigma's selectivity means when he shows up, it matters. His presence becomes valuable because it's not freely given to everyone. Selective engagement creates natural scarcity, increasing social value. Always available people become taken for granted. Selective people's attention becomes a valued commodity that others appreciate more deeply. This approach requires comfort with disappointing others and potentially missing experiences. Say no to good opportunities for great ones. Accept that some will misinterpret selectivity as rejection. Trust that the right people will understand boundaries. The Sigma has conquered FOMO by understanding that missing out on wrong things creates space for right things. Quality engagement with few beats, superficial engagement with many. The strategic solitude of the Sigma male isn't a flaw to be fixed or a problem to be solved. It's a feature of evolved masculine consciousness. While others chase validation through quantity of connections, the Sigma has discovered the profound power of intentional relationship building. In our upcoming segments, we'll explore each aspect of why Sigmas maintain such selective social circles, from their quality over quantity mindset to their emotional self-sufficiency that makes them immune to the desperate need for constant companionship that plagues most men. Before you go, remember that understanding these principles is just the beginning. If you want to master the art of strategic solitude and learn how to build genuine power through authentic relationships, make sure you're subscribed to Official Sigma Male. We're building a community of men who refuse to accept society's limiting definitions of success and connection. Hit that subscribe button now, because the insights we're sharing could completely transform how you approach relationships and personal power. The question isn't why Sigmas have no one in their lives. It's why everyone else is so afraid to stand alone that they'll accept anyone.